I'm on a quest to torture myself by listening to the scariest, most uncomfortable video game music ever made. Let's continue that quest today. First up is Dollhouses from Alice Madness Returns. There's like plucked harp. Yeah, excellent tension in that. Yeah, nice dissonance. You know, this track does a great job of being uncomfortable, but still being melodic, which is really satisfying. I think the thing that really works here is, as we listen, there's this wonderful piano, sort of, I can't tell if it's a piano or a harp, it doesn't really matter. But what's really cool is that there's a muted stopping of the sound. So for instance, if we were to put like a nail or something on the hammers of the piano and essentially dampen them so that they don't have the full vibrancy of the string, it actually produces this stopped kind of quality, which this is kind of what that sounds like actually. And I love how tense that feels. It's very disjointed, unnerving. The other thing that's really evocative, I think, in this piece is the swing or the fence kind of moving, the metallic sound. Now, of course, in horror games, music typically does have a lot of sound design elements in it. Those sound design elements work extremely well at making us feel unnerved, especially when we have this metallic sort of grinding or swinging rusted hinge sound quality in there. This track really ultimately, and I'd be curious what you think in the comments, but this particular track really feels like wading through like a forest and kind of like pushing past the leaves and trying to figure out what's there. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit and listen to where we're going with this piece. Yeah, and there's a kind of there's a little bit of a repetitive nature in that, where it feels as though we are twisting or turning and uncovering a truth. And in that sound is also not distress, but obviously dis-ease. It feels like we're just witnessing these dolls just like, you know, and it's like you don't want them to wake up, but you keep going, but like inevitably, like you also are looking behind your back to make sure that those things aren't creeping around behind you. It's really unnerving, and I love how muted that sound is. So in terms of like, if we're gonna rank the scariest video game music ever, let's rank it for fun. This is unnerving because of the metallic sound and because of the muted, let's call it a piano. So I would put that, honestly, at a solid. Let's be harsh. I'll put that at a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's definitely uncomfortable, but actually, because it has a melody, not that I want to listen to that in my vehicle while driving, or listen to it while I'm, I don't know, at the gym. But I definitely would put that as a 6.5 out of 10. It's unnerving, but it's not too bad. Let's go over to Doki Doki Literature Club. Sayo-nara. Oh no. Oh, dissonance. It sounds like... Da 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 ya da 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 da. The dissonance is awesome. So this works really well, and it's very unnerving, and it's easily an 8 out of 10, I think. Well, you know, I'll say 7.5. And the reason why it's that score is because we essentially are taking something that should be innocent. Now, I know the plot of Doki Doki Literature Club. I've never played it, but I watched a detailed synopsis about it because I'm a weenie. And one of the things that's really interesting about this is that this is when the facade starts to drop, and we get that twist. And the twist comes in the dissonance because we have this ba-bee, 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 that sound quality. While that's happening, we get this, this glockenspiel or whatever mallet instrument up top that is distorting it and playing in its own key. And so you're getting a natural clash. And that clash causes a great significance of discomfort. Also, what I find really fascinating, actually, is the fact that we didn't go with a live singer, which I think would have been, it's very meandery, but it's not necessarily in and of itself scary to have a singer kind of, nothing too bad. But what really makes that actually more evocative and more uncomfortable is the fact that it's fake singing. It's playing it on the piano. It's sampled, which is very uncomfortable and very distressing, frankly, and unnerving. It feels kind of like Uncanny Valley. All of these elements kind of combine to create this slightly cacophonous, which means loud, distorted, uncomfortable sound. And it's very like, it's just a little bit like, I don't like that. I was mocking Heart and Soul because it kind of fits in that, which again is another example of a piece that, is very heartwarming, very warm, very friendly, very peaceful. But when you twist the context, it becomes kind of scary. And one of the interesting things about this too is that when we think about horror music, essentially in the case of Doki Doki Literature Club, what we're doing is we're taking a thing that should be pretty, easygoing, anime girls and in school, and instead what we're doing is saying, psych, they're going to kill you. And that difference, that flip, where what we see on the surface is very like innocent and naive, but what we actually get is manipulative, terrifying, and murderous. That's very unnerving for your average person. So the playing with expectations is what actually really, really takes that to the next level. It's excellent. I'm going to actually give that an 8. That's very uncomfortable. Let's go to Halo 2 Infected. And I'm not expecting this to be scary per se. But what do I know? Maybe it'll be actually terrifying. I like that it's percussion only. Ba, ba, ba. Oh. That's a vibe shift. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of cool how it kind of actually, in and of itself, it takes on a whole different journey. It takes us on a journey, really, because it starts with the percussion, which is, evocative, tribal. Then it moves into, obviously, the real tension there with the sharpness and the strings. And then there's the vocals. I mean, it definitely goes on an arc, and it definitely feels like we're in a place that we shouldn't be. And you feel this bit of, like, hunting, like being hunted or the prey. So in that regard, it is quite tense. I don't think that it is particularly scary. The back half is palpably uncomfortable, but to me, it's one of these tracks that it's great. I think in context, it probably definitely feels like you're being hunted or being chased or pursued. There's invisibility or something. Like it feels very like Predator-esque. Very much like the Predator movies and the Predator itself. So for me, that particular track didn't really make me uncomfortable. It was actually kind of just interesting to listen to. I did like the little tense moment with the strings. I put that at a 5 out of 10 on the scary, ranking system here. Let's go to Utroba Night Stoneyard from Pathologic. Classic. Awful. Oh, awful. That's awful. Ugh. That chant is bad. Ooh. Hey, yo. Put this on in the club. Huh? This is the music that vampires are listening to in Blade. Feels like a heartbeat, actually. It's kind of cool. It feels like breathing, expansion, and retraction. Crazy because it started really, really, really scary. It started really tense. It started very fearful. The chanting actually kind of had this muffled kind of, really covered sound, which was deeply unsettling, actually. That alone and the breathings, that would have ended up being closer to an 8 out of 10 for me. But then when we kick in with the rhythm, it's actually awesome. It ends up kind of dipping, really kind of like a 4 out of 10. I'm not really uncomfortable. Now, I do think it's like a little, well, okay, fine, 5 out of 10. I don't really think that it's all that unnerving. The beginning certainly is. But as it kicks in with the rhythm, it kind of pulls you out of it because the vibes are just totally different. The movement of it is quite satisfying to listen to. So it's hard for me to be like, this is implicitly scary because the chanting is very evocative and very unsettling. But the sort of like, I don't know, it's just a little bit too like awesome. It's a vibe, actually. So I'd put that at a 5 out of 10. I'd probably say like 5 is our baseline, unless someone accidentally, like when they gave me this list, they put like a happy song in here. You know what I mean? Like that's, yeah. Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere Morceaux. There's no way that an Ace Combat track is scary. There's simply no way. But I used to think that there's no way Ace Combat tracks would be good, so I have to listen to this. So we're gonna mess with the. Are we gonna mess with the tempo, maybe? You can hear how it wants to. It's so interesting. Everything's so jagged. Yeah, so basically I think what happened here was that we, you know, and then what we do is we then and then what we do is we separate those, which ironically we can also do as vocalists. I don't know. I think it's a very impressive piece, actually, because it shows like an unraveling, and it kind of gives way to like this like feeling of like a discovery that's really, really, really bad. Like it's a discovery. It's like almost like you've run out of options, and so the only thing you can do is like look forward. But the problem is looking forward is looking directly in the face of danger. Like there's innate tension in it, but I don't think that it's necessarily scary. I think actually the breaking up of the sopranos and the altos there, and having that sort of disjointedness actually does a great job of showcasing how much tension there is in this moment, this kind of realization that like all hell is breaking loose. I actually don't even think it's scary. Honestly, I would put that at a 4 out of 10. Now, I do think it has excellent atmosphere and excellent tension, but I don't think it's implicitly scary. At the end of the day, it's like, well, what's my definition of what scary is? And the answer is, I don't even know. But I do think it's uncomfortable for sure. Carry On, Watery Grave. Let's check this out. Chris Velasco, yeah. Nice distorted sopranos. Nice crescendo, decrescendo there with those sopranos. Dissonance there is really tight. So it's interesting to me because the track is called Watery Grave, and what we end up getting here is actually exactly that. It sounds like the waves kind of washing and pulling and pushing off of the shore, and you kind of just see like, you know, the sort of the death, sort of the water cascading over a body or something, and the imagery would be excellent, as if like a thing is emerging out of the water, which is where the sopranos kind of come in, the sopranos altos, that kind of and it sounds like that really excellent crunch between the sopranos and mezzos creates that feeling of disjointedness and real feeling of tension, because there's the real chromatic, you know, they're just crisscrossing each other. I don't fully know the interval there, but that really presses into the sound, and it's excellent. It's very unnerving. Honestly, this one's a pretty good one. This one's an 8 out of 10 for me. It definitely leaves not a lot of space to breathe, and it feels like you're kind of choking up on water yourself. And I love how the strings kind of ebb and flow, so you get a little bit of respite, but then as you get the respite, the sopranos are coming in louder and louder and louder as the strings kind of then pull in, and you get this like constant feeling of like drowning, really, or not being able to breathe. But definitely the wave undulating in and out from the shore. It's a very, very powerful track, actually. And it's interesting to me how, in general, horror games tend to have this sort of like ambient sound quality where it ends up defaulting more into sound design versus and over music. I feel like that's probably par for the course, because if it's playing in the background, certainly as the player is moving and doing their thing, that works really well. I wonder if melodic writing can be scary. I mean, to be fair, Night on Bald Mountain, you know, so you can produce scary melodies, but I think what's happening here with a lot of video game tracks, including this one, which is well composed, obviously, is that we are leading with sound design and leading with atmospheric tension over melodic tension as to not pull focus from the gameplay experience, which is valid. But I still think that was unnerving. I put that at an 8 out of 10 for sure. Sonic Spinball? Okay. Boss from Sonic Spinball. I think the game itself is just terrifying because who wants to play? I'll tell you what's scary is how shrill that metallic sound is in my ears right now. Oh, dude. The sound design is cool. Yeah, it's interesting, you know, because this is an example where it's like there's a little bit of a melody in here, and it feels, and I think it's a little bit dated, and so it naturally has the sound of a different time, really of the 90s, right? And so you do get like stalking, you know, creeping, you know, trying to not be seen or feeling hunted, kind of like the Halo track, weirdly. Now, it does produce tension, and I also like how if you really listen, if you go back and listen to this, you can actually feel the beginnings of like the atmospheric stuff that we literally just heard in Carrion here in Sonic Spinball, like the sort of like metallic, so they're drum hits, but they really end up almost sounding like metal hits, like hitting on metal. And so there's that clash that's occurring, but I don't necessarily think this is scary. I think because it also is like really rhythmic. How do you produce fear, right? I do think it's tense, and I definitely think it's uncomfortable, but I probably put that at a 4 out of 10 as well. Like, and you can definitely feel the like intention behind it, and I think it works. And it's probably very unnerving in game, but I in a listening experience, what the fuck was that noise? What the But yeah, I don't think it's particularly scary. 4 out of 10. It is a vibe though. Holy shit. I love it. I love it. Let's go to the Incinerator from Signalis. Oh wow. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, so this passes the test. This is excellent, and the reason why is that you've got rhythm, and it actually sounds like Incinerator, but it also sounds like a dryer. But the thump thang boom boom bam boom bang gang gang boom boom gang boom bam bam boom boom gang. It's really cool because you have rhythm, but the rhythm is also sound design. It's like a musical instrument through like an everyday appliance that or an incinerator. No one has an incinerator in their house, so everyday appliance. I mean, unless you're, you know, maybe you do, but that's kind of weird. But so in the case of this, we're using an appliance, a thing that is not necessarily a musical instrument to produce a feeling of musicality within it. That's very unnerving and also very smart. Boom, ba, ba. See, boom, ba, ba, brow, boom, ba, ba, brow. This picks up speed. This is a natural rhythm too. Boom, bam, boom, bam, bam, boom, bam. Bow, boom, bow, 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 boom, bow, boom. Da 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 da. Rhythm, fast rhythm here, and then that sound. Oh, that even sounds like a scream, actually. It sounds like a writhing in pain. right, I've had enough of that. Yeah, that's excellent. The distortion kind of starts kind of quiet, and then it picks up, and then it's really unsettling. I think that might be a 10, bro. Like, that's really scary. That's unnerving because, again, you have the natural mechanical rhythm sound in that, coupled with just the sound design and the distortions and the distorted twisting of the throat, whatever that is. Excellent sound design, excellent like musical storytelling through rhythm, through like a modern appliance, and really, 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 really unnerving. That's very uncomfortable. I wouldn't never want to hear that again. Very good. A recent game that came out, indie darling called Cairn. This is Fatigue in Your Head. This is a game about mountain climbing from the developers of Fury, which is both great games. Let's listen to this. See, using breath as rhythm. Holy shit. So you hear the heartbeat and the breath as rhythms, rhythmic elements. Man, the hits there. So my curiosity here, excellent. Breath, the heartbeat, the feeling of like choking, falling, exhaustion. So now my thought is, where does this go? How do we make this, how does this become more tense? And does the melodic writing now that's kind of filled in the gaps here, is this going to make it more of an emotional journey, or was this going to retain the sort of horror? So for instance, for me, as I listen to this, suddenly I actually feel like there's a shift. Now I feel desperation. I feel, how do I keep my head on straight? How do I move through this difficulty in this fatigue in the case of the title? You hear that kind of with the hits, right? Like that's the sound of like, okay, how do I focus up and go for it? So it loses a little bit of the tension because here it feels like we're digging our heels in and committing to ourselves. And so it changes the emotional impetus. I still think obviously that it's uncomfortable because the breath and the heart rate, like I think like those are such great ways of producing tension. And I do think that the soundtrack itself is very, very, overwhelming and in this case gorgeous. But I think that it does end up sounding a bit flat. It just loses a little bit of that danger sound and that little bit of that like fear sound. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this personally a 7.5 out of 10. I think it comes very close to really stepping into the horror of like what happens when you're climbing up a face of a mountain and you're just running out of gas. It doesn't necessarily sustain that for good reason, right? Excellent piece, but not exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to scary stuff. Let's go over to, again, Spelunky 2. It seems impossible that it would have scary music, but let's listen to 1,000 Eyes from Spelunky 2. Okay, not going in the direction I expected it to. So we have a reverse. Yeah, you're reversing it. Yeah, that's shocking. I mean, that's an easy 7. That's really an 8 out of 10. Like, that's really uncomfortable. You know what? Even 8.5. Screw it. That's an 8.5 out of 10. I mean, I think it's hard, right? Because like, at what point is horror music? At what point is horror music sound design and sound effects? And I think it's actually a really fun part of the space, because it's like, well, I mean, theoretically, it's both, isn't it? I mean, like, what we just heard is incredibly uncomfortable. Personally, I would put that, yeah, I mean, to me, that's unnerving. And I would absolutely place that in sound design because of the reversing of the water and the different bird elements. But then I think what's really interesting is that we have that low sort of a drone, boom. And that really kind of is not only a resetting point, but also a moment of tension where we do feel those 1,000 eyes sort of staring at us. And then, of course, the end, the dissonant choir, which we've heard a few times in this particular video, that is extremely evocative. Again, I'm sort of surprised that Spelunky 2 has like some of the scariest music I've ever heard in a game. I really want to go for like an OG. So let's go to Silent Hill. Let's go to My Heaven. So we have a repeated drone in the lower piano. Dum. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. So, I mean, this is a prime example of towing that line. Now, we have a real strong rhythmic identity in that piece, and it's I've heard this before, and I definitely think it's very uncomfortable. I think it's a very scary piece. I think it's a very unnerving piece that I never, ever, 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 ever. That's really my criteria. Like, do I want to hear this in a dark room? And if it's in like 7 and up, that's a definitive absolutely I don't, in capital letters. And so My Heaven in this particular case, the twisting and the distorting of the radio, and then listen, I mean, even the rhythmic motion of boom, taka, 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 dum, 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 that is theoretically music, and it is extremely unnerving. I have to wonder if the Signalis composers weren't basing some of their musical ideas or sound design ideas off of Silent Hill. Now, obviously, we've got the survival horror elements in both. I think like that's really uncomfortable and extremely unnerving and deeply unsettling. I definitely feel like Signalis in this one I'm going to give also a 10. And I've heard this before and I forgot because I erased it from my mind because it hurt my brain and my soul on a deep personal level. And I think like in this case, it just delivers on the assignment. So in my mind, both this and Signalis are absolutely at the very tippy top of this scale out of 10 out of 10. Extremely uncomfortable, extremely visceral, using hits and sound design to create rhythm through those things, to like feel that sense of just discomfort, just really nailing it as well. Yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think that this list is fair? Do you think that this was a good list of the scariest video game music ever made? Obviously, we've got more work to do. I've got 3 other videos of these that you can look for yourself on the playlist that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. And then, yeah, let's keep doing this, because I feel like this is a corner of the video game music scene that really is not very talked about. And frankly, kind of for good reason, because it's really uncomfortable. Thanks a ton, and I'll see you on the next one.